Guys, welcome back to the Sprint Podcast. Today it's just me and Bravo. That's it. Bree can't make it today, but he'll be hopefully in the next one. Today we have a lot of good talking points, but the first one I want to talk about and Bravo loves the most are wipes. Bravo loves wipes so much. If we could wipe every week, he probably would. How do you think they're going to do wipes in this game?
Yeah, man, I love wipes in and out of a game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Of that.
Yeah, I mean, where do we start with the wipes? I feel like wipes are so specific to the game that it's like, kind of depends on, the economy of the game. Like, are they going ultra hardcore with how much loot we're getting? Where it's like, your first rare item is in the 4th week of you playing? Or are you gonna have full, legendary items by week 2, right? So
yeah. Yep. The game type depends heavily. Because who does wipes? It's Tarkov does wipes. Yeah. Rust does a type of wipe.
I think any extraction game has a wipe system, right?
Basically any extraction. I don't think there's any extraction that doesn't do it besides Hunt Showdown, but that's not really a good example.
Not every extraction has a set wipe date. So like Cycle had like their seasons, right? Although I guess they weren't even set because they would delay all the time. But like Tarkov kind of does. Tarkov kind of does it whenever they feel like. I feel like I know Rust has like a set pattern
weekly
for wipes.
Or monthly or something. That's pretty set. Yeah. I think it's like the first Wednesday of every month or something. It's something like that.
And also I think there's always the option to consider that Marathon will be a little bit different than other games where they might just not do wipes in general if they have like a good
that'd be wild.
System for losing and gaining gear. That would be pretty crazy. But this is the first time we've seen I guess you can consider Tarkov a AAA game, I think.
I'd call maybe AA tops,
Double A? I don't know. Anyways, but yeah. I mean, that's fair, but you also look at Tarkov as a game and it's pretty insane.
No, that's fair.
I know it's janky,
all the bullets and right, I mean the coders of that game must have, because the amount of different bullets do different damage. I mean, it is crazy, but the game is
Tarkov is, in terms of quality, I think Tarkov is easily up there.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But for an extraction game, this is the first time we've gotten an extraction game out of a studio that's a big boy studio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is I feel like this is almost if Riot was gonna introduce a extraction game. You know what I mean? It's Bungie.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Riot came out with Val, and everyone was saying Val was gonna be dog because we had CS:GO, and CS:GO was literally the daddy. And if you ask me, I think Val kind of took the spot of CS:GO. I don't know if it's bigger yet, but maybe that's what we'll see with the Tarkov versus Marathon comparison.
Val definitely split the community more than it was for sure. Everybody was on CS, and then I know Val took a decent amount of people. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. Bungie might have something cooked up where they're not even doing wipes anymore, or they might have some sort of, because I feel like there's also alternate ways to kind of avoid wipes. They might have gear syncs or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It just kind of depends on the economy, how often they wipe things, and
I'd be very surprised if there aren't wipes.
Yeah, or some form of
some
gear
form
loss,
of reset,
right? Something.
Yeah. Yep. But they can do it in different ways, in COD, it's not an extraction shooter, but when you prestige, you theoretically lose all your attachments, lose everything. So you could have something like that, but no one's made a good way to get rid of gear without wipes. There's no good way to get rid of stuff.
I also think that I think that players just do not like having to reset their gear if everybody's not resetting their gear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Me as a player, there's no wipe hype if I know it's only me. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's no it's hype when I know everybody's reset. So
yeah, that's why Cycle died. That's one of that's basically the main reason. They said, don't worry, sweeties. You guys, if you don't want to wipe, you don't have to. You can,
I don't care.
At least you can reset. Why would I want to reset when there's a guy with the best gear in the game and I just started off again? What?
They didn't understand. But
yeah.
I will say one of the numbers I feel like I see a lot in games is that 3 month to 4 month window of season, and I know Bungie uses that 3 month window in Destiny. So I'd say like if I had to, take a bet on like a wipe timeline, it's probably gonna be like 3 months every wipe if they are going down that route. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure.
Do
It's
they
hard
give
to
like a
say
lot of
with the game
content
that
every
we
three
haven't
months?
played. But
Is it like sustainable?
can you say that again?
For like every 3 months in Destiny, right? Like, is there enough content to last you the next 3 months?
Uh, Depends on the level of play you are. I would say for anybody who plays the game like kind of like hardcore, where it's like their main game where they're actually putting in hours.
Yeah.
No,
No.
I think that most people get very bored with the game.
Yeah.
But if you're the kind of guy who logs in, who plays for like a couple hours, maybe kind of aimlessly drifting around, not really putting your mind to anything, you're kind of just like shooting aliens and that's all you really do. Yeah, you probably don't really get through all the content.
Yeah. That's fair.
You probably don't get all the guns crafted, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it really just depends. But like I would say for the average like grinder, no, definitely not.
No. Okay. I mean, who knows? I mean, I feel like in Marathon, the game loop will be much better than it is in Destiny. Because I mean, in Destiny, what do you do? You do your gambits, your quests, your raids, but you've already done them so many times, and like you don't have that PvP element when you're doing all these missions. I mean, you could play Crucible, which is PvP, but
I feel like extraction games also have a better like loop to them, I guess you could say.
replayability.
Like I feel like Destiny is a infinitely harder game to like make content for consistently and like keep alive and keep players interested, because
I get that.
it's not like the same type of game. They're like so different. Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd say so different, but it's just not the same type of game. Like an extraction game, you're constantly losing gear, you're constantly gaining gear.
Yeah.
PvP is a very dynamic thing, so every interaction you have with another player is usually like different in some capacity. So it kind of keeps that like that factor going to where it's like exciting every raid. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's fair.
And honestly, just looting people's bodies for their loot is like, it just never gets old, right? Like,
yeah,
for the most part.
Especially if it's like a juicer kit and you're like, oh, I killed them with like the shittiest gun in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely helps.
So I think Destiny just struggles because of the type of game it is, and it's really hard to like constantly keep players happy in that type of game.
Yeah.
Whereas an extraction shooter, in my opinion, is a little bit easier to like kind of keep interesting because of just the way the game plays.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm kind of less worried about Marathon's like day to day.
If the PvP's fun, it'll be pretty easy, because just in Cycle we had nothing to do and PvP was phenomenal, so we had fun every day, So yeah, I agree. If they do PvP well, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, because like we even had fun on Cycle, and to be honest, like Marathon's probably gonna like
blow it out of the water
on Cycle. Yeah. So
we had fun on that. We'll have fun on this.
Yeah, I feel like yeah. So yeah, I mean I'm expecting Marathon to be pretty good in that department. I think it'll be pretty fun day to day, but
yeah, it'll be fun.
I don't know. Wipes. It's just really gonna come down to like what they want to do with their seasons, or it's like season pass, because we know we're getting a battle pass. Every game has one now.
Yeah.
And usually we'll get a wipe at the end of the battle pass, and Destiny like loves the 3-month window, so I'd say probably like 3 months.
I know it makes sense, because like, I mean, when they wipe, they have to have a way to reset. Like they're probably going to give like in-game gear unless it's all cosmetic based, so they have to wipe out that gear, and then obviously you have like quests. We don't know how they're going to do quests yet, but you have to either reset the quests, or maybe they just, I don't know if they want to, but they could add new quests every time, but that would be an insane amount of work. I don't know how they would do that, but that's what every game does, like extraction shooter wise, because like in Tarkov, they're not going to remake every quest every single season. That's an impossible amount of work. So wiping is it's free content. It's literally free content. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone starts at the beginning. It's the most fun of basically any wipe, like you said. I mean, when everyone has the worst guns in the game, it's so much fun. I don't want to just be stuck at endgame using the best guns in the game. I mean, yeah, using the best guns in the game is fun, but not every raid for the rest of my life, So
yeah, I mean, I agree. I also think like I'm not gonna lie, like I wouldn't only want to stay at like the primitive early white PvP forever. I think it's like I just think it's a nice like change of pace after being at like
No, yeah,
endgame for probably
100%.
what's like 2 months, right? Like
Yeah.
it's fun for a little bit, but I definitely enjoy the endgame PvP more because of just like using those like, really good guns and
Yeah.
armor or whatever else. But yeah, I mean, wipes are just a good change of pace for the game. Like it gets people excited. It creates an entry point for players that want to like not have to go against the greatest geared players of all time. I think wipes are extremely healthy for games like this, and I think what Cycle did, where they removed wipes and told players they could wipe them like cells, is like one of the worst things you could ever do in an extraction game. I think it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And I hope any extraction game devs who are working on a game now or in the future, like I really hope they learn from that terrible decision because that was not the move.
Yep. They could take away a lot of things from Cycle because they made a lot of the mistakes for a lot of these companies. Cycle might have made every single mistake.
They honestly did.
So yeah. So I mean, it all depends. And if we want to segue into questing real quick, questing could be something that, I mean, some people do quests. Like some people, for example, in Cycle, some people just did quests up to like getting the better stims and they just quit questing. Some people did every single quest just for completion. And in Tarkov, you have stuff like Kappa, which is an extremely hard quest line. Some people want to get it. Some people don't care for it because it's not worth it. Some people want to get it just to say they got it. So, I mean, I think they'll have a ton of different types of quests. I really hope they have like short quests for people that just don't want to grind too much, then quests that are so utterly ridiculous and stupid and hard that makes people wonder why they're doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, I hope that there's something to chase for with quests or like grind for. I think it adds an incredible amount of like grind into the game that otherwise would not be there. I think Cycle kind of got close to doing it towards the end, unfortunately, like when there was only like a few thousand people left playing the game with the Karambit or whatever.
Yeah, that was sick.
But I think Bungie should understand that. Like again, they're a very competent company for the most part. The quests, I mean, I think the quests they have in Destiny are, done quite well. There's a lot of like one-off exotic quests that you have to go do, and it's not like some 20-minute thing where you're done. Like for the most part, it's like a couple hours for you to get through that quest, and I think they understand that. Like, I think they understand the concept of like elongating, the longevity of a game can be extended by adding this like that type of content in, and I'm sure they've also looked at Tarkov. Obviously, I feel like it'd be a major mistake to not take inspiration from Tarkov with the Kappa. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm without a doubt, I'm expecting a pretty robust quest line. Maybe not off rip if that's something they have to like what's the word, like if that's something they have to leave out for now just to like get the game released. You know what I mean? I understand, and then they build upon it. And I think Tarkov's done that. I think most extraction games have done that, where they kind of build upon their quest line. So if it's not fully fleshed as the game releases, I think it's fine. But I do hope that they have like that kind of Kappa level reward for finishing all the quests, and I also hope that those quests aren't like mega easy. I hope it's like Tarkov level or similar. Yeah. But yeah.
Also in Tarkov, I feel like the quests, like if you just look at the quests in Tarkov, like in a general sense, they don't seem that hard. But the fact in Tarkov is that a lot of the quests, a good majority of them, if you complete the quest and you die, it doesn't count. So you have to restart them. I think that's a big reason why, for example, in Cycle, it was the complete opposite. No matter what you did, as long as you completed it, you could die immediately and you'd be basically done, except for like a handful of missions where you had to like place something, like stash something, but that was a very small handful. So it depends how they do that too. But again, I don't know. Marathon, I don't think it's going to be this insanely like hardcore game, because I mean it's just not. They wouldn't do that, because again, it's going to be on console. I think it's made for the generic gamer to play, because I think they want to take over the market, because there's really no market for a game like this on console. So but yeah, questing is going to be something that I hope they do well, because for example, in Rust as well, I think Rust does quests pretty well, but again, Rust is pretty much a different category in some sense. But like
isn't Rust quests like material rewards, like you go collect something and then they give you an item?
Well, essentially. But again, in Rust, you don't have an inventory like out of raid. Everything's in raid. So I mean, everything you earn is going to have to be earned as items in your game. You can't get something out of game basically. I mean, you could get cosmetics, but I don't really see how that would work too much. But as long as the quests are good, as long as there's a lot of hard quest lines and stuff that makes me feel like I'm progressing through the game and I'm actually getting stuff that's worthwhile, you know, like if they could, I really hope they do something in the sense of like if you complete the best quest line in the game, you get some sick stuff. Like I really hope they add some cool cosmetics for completing really sick quest lines, because I would love to run around the map with like crazy knives or crazy stuff like in Valorant, like the knives in Valorant. Those are sick. I'd love if they did something like that. They would make so much money just off of simple
even if it's just
cosmetics.
cosmetic stuff too.
Yeah,
Like
literally.
you get like a really cool looking melee for like kind of like Cycles Karambit, like just for quest. But yeah, I mean, I agree with your earlier point. I don't think that Marathon's quest line will be anywhere near Tarkov level. Like, let's be honest, Tarkov is specifically designed to be hardcore and be annoying and be an experience for like that, you know, level of gameplay that people enjoy, like that super hardcore level of gameplay. But yeah, I expect Marathon to be a bit more relaxed, probably closer to Cycle's level of difficulty with quests. But I do think it'll be more robust and probably like more like interesting quests. I think Cycle's quests were a bit like tedious. I think Marathon will have more like interesting quests for sure.
Yeah, I hope so.
But also, these are kind of quests, but like a lot of games will have like achievements, like quest achievements, where it's like, you know, you kill 100 players with headshots, you get a title or something. I hope that instead of just like, I'm fine with them making the actual main quest line kind of like achievable for most players, but I really hope they add like a few of those like achievements into like the game, where it's like even insane grinders are like working for months to get this thing. And I think that creates such a good like avenue for content creators and then like your most dedicated players to really like put time into your game, where they're not just kind of like sitting around like making up challenges for themselves, but like just add 10,000 PvP kills with sniper headshots. Like, bro, that automatically like that creates
something to work for like in the back of your head, you know, like
right, exactly. Like, all right, I'm gonna get my 100 sniper kills today, so I can progress towards this like gun buddy that only the people who do this have, right? So it's like, and like, you know how many YouTube videos would pop up of like, I got my gun buddy, or working towards the gun buddy, or like, and you could add that for so many different things, right? Like the 10,000 sniper kills, it could be 100,000 PvP kills. You get like a really cool melee a melee like weapon. You get a karambit, right? Like something really sick. Or if it's just like a player skin too, like I think adding, and it's so easy, right? Like it's literally so easy to add those to the game. Like it's just an achievement. It's just any other achievement. Just make it hard. Make it something to grind for.
Yeah, like very hard. Like anyone can get it. You just got to put the time in.
I've played a lot of games where they do that, and I just know how much I know how much value it brings to your game. When you just have something that's ridiculously hard and grindy to get.
Yeah.
But it's not something you have to get, right? Like any casual player would be like, yeah, I'll accept that I'm not going to get this, and it's not going to bother me that much, right? Because you don't want something that's like meta. You can't add like an actual gun that unlocks after those 100,000 kills.
Yeah.
So then it just changes the landscape, and like the people who are able to put that 8 hours in a day are going to be ridiculously like overpowered. But if it's just a melee skin, right? Like there's no harm in that. It's just you reward the people who are able to really put a lot of time into your game. It's super easy to do, I feel like. So
I literally I did that thing like that whole topic you just said. I probably wrote to the Cycle devs minimum 15 times. I'm like, hey, add a tab where it's like a lifelong achievements book, and it's like sell 100,000 of this, or get this many kills, and like complete certain dungeons as a solo, complete certain dungeons as a duo. Like again, like you said, it just gets me excited. I'm tinkling right now.
And it's so easy. It's such like
so
I feel like devs are always like, yeah, but we can't produce this much content for our game. It's like, I understand. I'm not asking you to produce a season level, of content every month. I'm asking you to put in small, easy to like do things that are really grindy, right? So it's like, it's as simple as adding achievement, but you make it very hard with a decent reward. So it's like you add a ton of playtime to your game, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's very simple. It's not, I'm not asking you to create 4 new bosses that I can go out and beat. I'm asking you to add an achievement that'll give me an extra 300 playtime or hours of playtime, right? Like, I feel like it's so simple.
It stacks up too. Like if you have like
it really does
100 of these like long achievements, you know how many more hours that is for other players? Like that's how longevity of games comes about. Like it's just like what games, like I can't really think of anything except honestly right now, but there's probably more, but like Sea of Thieves is a decent example of stuff like that, because they have the most like achievements I've seen in my life. There's a book with pages, and every single little slot you click in, there's like 50 achievements per little thing. So if you wanted to, you could literally spend thousands of hours and you won't even be done. Like there's just so much.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because you know, back in the day I used to play like a decent amount of MMO, and like one of the MMOs I played, it had like you said, an achievement book, and there would be, not every achievement gave you an item, but like there would be some achievements that were just so ridiculously hard to get, but like they would reward you with a really cool item. And albeit I think in this game you actually got like decent PvP weapons from doing it. So I think that's a little bit like,
yeah, I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that because it's like in this day and age, like I just think the sentiment was different back then, right? But like there's nothing wrong with changing that actual item to like a skin. Like if you have if there's like a SMG in that game, you could add like 10,000 SMG headshots. You add like a really cool SMG skin, right? And that doesn't mean you can't add really cool SMG skins to your store. Just make this one like its own thing. So
yeah,
it could be just as cool. Just make it like different. You know what I mean? So and you could do this. You could do the same type of thing for PvE as well. This isn't just a PvP avenue. Like you could easily do like 100 boss kills taking no damage, right? Like. And then you get
there's
a cool
so many options,
charm or something. There's so many ways to do this, and it adds so much playtime to your game, and it's so easy to add achievements.
Yeah,
it's one of the easiest things to do.
I know in WoW they basically did that because they have the like all the stuff you can ride on. I don't know what they're called, but like all the mounts. Yeah, all the mounts. Like there's so many mounts in WoW, and it's like if you got certain mounts from doing certain stuff. Like I was watching Asmongold one time, and he was completing like the highest, I don't know what it's called, but like the highest difficulty dungeon as a solo. And I don't even understand WoW, but I was watching it, and these little mobs, like in the very beginning of the dungeon, were the tankiest things I've seen in my life. And it took them like 5 hours to complete this thing just to get a mount. I'm like, what? Like stuff like that for like, you don't need it, but it's
you can do all that stuff in this type of game. Like albeit you probably can't have mounts, but like,
yeah, not mounts, but something.
But you could add like bro, add a 1% rare drop from the boss. That's like a weapon charm of the boss, right? Yep. Like it's just like a super rare drop, but it's like something where you're like, it takes, dude, how long would it take to make a gun buddy for like that is just a smaller boss, right? Like it's just like it's like an action figure of the boss. Like it can't take that long, bro. Like,
I mean, they have a good art team. Destiny's cosmetics, they're not bad.
It can't take that long.
Yeah.
It's something that's in the back of your mind where it's like, I wonder if I'll get it this time. And it's an extra reason to kill that boss, right? Like for whatever reason you're killing it to begin with, whether it's a quest or you want the items from it, it's like that extra reason where you might kill it. Like you might kill the times where you usually wouldn't, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I mean, I've done the quest, but I can still get that gun buddy and I'm running past there. So I might as well just kill him. And that's extra playtime. That's extra involvement with the content that's in the game. And it's not adding new content, right? Like, I guess technically you could call it content, but it's not like, when I think of new content, I'm thinking of like adding a boss, adding an area, adding quests. Like this is just simply adding cosmetic item. So it's so simple. It's simple to add playtime to your game. A
really good point. Like a lot of the issues that I have on a lot of extraction shooters is like, where do you like map disparity? Like where a player is going to be in the map, and simple stuff like this, like you said, can bring people to different parts of the map. Like if there's like, imagine 4 bosses on a map, you could keep people going to these areas. You could keep people going all around the map, because as you're going to different points, you're going to find different people. And that's what makes the game more replayable and more fun, because you're not having the same gunfights in the same locations. If you're fighting in different places all the time, it's going to be so much more fun. It's just going to be 7 times better than if like this is something that I think has to be in the game. Like it is, I can't I'm so excited. I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? It's just so simple.
I think I had this conversation in the Discord in the podcast discussion channel, but yeah, I mean, you have a game like Cycle, right, where people run into base camp every time they spawn in, and the fight always happens there. But as soon as you add an event boss, a world boss, like loot drops, that's like a crate that spawns randomly in one of the POIs. That's when you start getting these fights that happen in areas that usually wouldn't have the main fight, whether because it's not in the middle of the map, it's not maybe the conventionally most fun to place to take a fight. But it's dynamic. It creates that interaction with the map that otherwise wouldn't happen, where people just choose the one spot that they think is like the most populated and they always run there. But yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think adding like random events to your map is one of the most important things you can do in an extraction game when you're building one, in my opinion. I think it elevates the game to such a higher level when you have these like events that kind of keep the map feeling alive. And like for every raid you're in, it's dynamic, it feels alive, you feel like you're not always doing the same thing. Again, it's simple things like that where like once you add it, you never have to tweak it. And it's like, it creates so much more like longevity in your game, and like
100%.
people feel interested in your game longer because like they're not always running to the same part of the map to PvP, right? So I think random events, I think random like, and it has to be, I think more specifically is like, I think it has to be worth fighting over too.
Yeah, that's fair.
It needs to be something that people want to like risk their gear for.
Yeah.
So like if I see this thing spawning in, I'm like, yeah, I got a good kit on, but if I win this mosh pit of PvP that's going to happen around this like airdrop, then I get a big boy set, right? Like it's got to be something that's worth fighting over. And I really hope that like I really hope that devs, like the marathon devs, like understand that like world events are like a kind of a big piece of the game, because like, you know, Tarkov has their bosses, right?
Yeah.
People usually, albeit those bosses usually spawn in like kind of the same areas, but when people hear, you know, one of those bosses shooting, they usually try to be the guy to take him out.
Yeah. They give a lot of XP and they have chances to have really good stuff on them, like the lab key cards that sell for millions. Like you might as well kill them. You're there, you know, see what they got. You know?
Exactly.
You might as well.
I think Tarkov does it pretty well.
Yeah.
I think Rust's like monuments are pretty cool, and then they have the cargo ship that comes around randomly that people, that's another, right? Imagine Rust with no cargo ship. Like that's just okay, so now nobody's going to the sea basically besides oil rig.
Yeah, no one's going to the water.
You create this boat that circles the map that like constantly creates these dynamic fights that like are kind of always different.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. But yeah, I think the main components of this like idea are that like make it kind of random, don't make it always in the same spot or the same POI. Make it worth fighting over, and just like make it fun. Make it a fun event. I think like you know.
I think Destiny does events well. So like Destiny does world events, right? They do little world events. So
kinda like, I think the main problem with Destiny is that they're not rewarding enough. Their world events, like they're cool, but they're not rewarding enough.
Yeah, but I think that's hard to do in Destiny and just how the game is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I also think that like Destiny's not a PvP game besides the Crucible, so like imagine those world events, but like one team's holding them down, right? Like you got to defend the Glimmer Drill or whatever. Like that would be way cooler than what it is now, because it's just like you load in and then you just like beat up on some low level mobs with like 40 other guys, and then that you load out. It's like
if there was PvP elements, it'd definitely be more fun. It definitely. I mean, the extraction shooters, that element it's just going to bring so much to it. But I feel like we've kind of talked about progression a lot without really talking about it. But I mean, progression kind of ties in with like leveling in a way, but for progression, what I want to see in this game is just, I just want to get kind of a bang for my buck. Like if I'm grinding this game, I want to be able to show off what I'm getting. I want to be able to if I complete certain stuff, I'm going to have better stuff than everyone else. I just want to feel rewarded, basically. Games that I think do this really, really well, or games that don't do this really, really well. Like for example, in Cycle Frontier, the game that died, by the way, it's dead. basically you could have the best gear in the game, the top of the top, the bell of the ball, and you could die to a Timmy with literally the worst gun in the game in 2 seconds. You wouldn't even have a chance to fight back, and that just kills my vibe. I don't want to play the game anymore because I put in so many hours to get this gear. Then I die to someone that just got the game in the first 3 minutes. So I just want to feel rewarded for putting hours into the game.
Yeah, I mean, we have talked about a bit about progression without like really focusing on what progression is, but progression is questing, progression is how fast you gain loot, progression is like your PvP interactions, like how is your gear faring against other people. But yeah, I mean, I think the one we haven't talked about the most is kind of just the gear factor, which you just mentioned. I think progression really comes down to like the rate your gear increases compared to everybody else's, and how fast you kind of upgrade your stuff via questing or just like PvP, PvE. And yeah, like Cycle had a terrible progression system. Like you could kill literally legendary gear with a scrapper in like 1.5 seconds or something, like something stupid.
The scrapper's one of the worst guns in the game. Well, it's not the worst. It's ranked one of the worst guns in the game. It's not one of the
rarity
worst
wise. It is one of the worst guns.
Yeah,
in the game.
rarity wise.
And it's like, I don't think we'll have this issue as much with this game, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things. Is like, what people need to understand about progression is that if you undermine how much progression matters to like playing the game, that means that there's no reason to progress, right? So like, what I mean is, if any guy with starter gear has a really good chance of killing me in my best gear, what is the point of progressing? You essentially have an arena game at that point. You have like a Call of Duty where everybody's on the same playing field, and that's just not an extraction shooter. Like, I understand that not everybody has the same amount of time to put in, but unfortunately that's just kind of what happens when you have a game that can be grinded. Like, if you want a game where it's like you always load in and everybody's on the same playing field, go play COD, go play Destiny's Crucible. Like, I also don't understand, I've had this kind of like debate with people in the past where it's like they feel like they should have a good chance of killing people that are way better gear than them because it's just more interesting. It's like, okay, if you have a great chance of killing me and I'm in great gear, what is the point of killing me and looting my gear? Because you're looting gear that's no better than what you have on.
I think you should still have a chance, but not a great chance. Like, if you kill a guy that's absolutely geared, he must have lost his thing. I don't know. He must have lost his something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think like when you kill people in Cycle, like, you don't even get that really like feeling that you're like looting something good, because it's like, yeah, I just killed a legendary guy, but I can put this gear on and then die to this, the same thing I
can happen to me.
Killed this guy with, and it's just like, it's like okay, nice, I guess. I mean, it's just kind of dumb. I feel like progression really needs to make you much stronger, like the further you get down the line. And yeah, like you said, if I kill somebody in max gear with my starter gear, I should have had to like hit the craziest 360 no scope trick shot of all time on him, and he like dropped his controller and it ran out of batteries, and then like his PC shut off at the same time and he started lagging. Like,
I can really imagine like an insane Twitch clip of like it's Timmy, right? It's Timmy just he's like fighting like 3 13-year-olds, like, just cooking them, and he just rinses them with the worst gun in the game. And it's just like, you need those moments of like, holy,
I agree. I also think, when you make it something like, it's just so much healthier for the game to make it like that, because like it just creates that experience where it's like, oh my god, this should never have been possible, and I just pulled it off.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like the gear I gained from this is so good. It's like, I don't know. It's like you're not risking a lot. There's a high reward, but there's an incredible skill level that's needed to like pull it off, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yep. 100% agree.
But yeah, that's the main thing in my opinion. I think gear really actually needs to scale. I think it actually needs to like provide benefits to the player in PvP and PvE.
Yeah.
And I hope that it does.
Yep. I hope they figure out some way to make it. I know Apex, it's a BR obviously, but one thing they did really well is their shield, like how they made it, like in the old Apex, right? You would load into the map or fall into the map or dive into the map, and you wouldn't have any armor, right? You'd have to find the white armor, then you'd have to find better pieces of armor. Now they made it so it evolves. So like the more damage you do as a player, the better your shield gets, and it just incentivizes you to PvP more. And I don't know, I love that about Apex. I think they did a great job in their shielding system. I know obviously it's a BR, so it's completely different, but I don't know how they would take that into account. But I think Apex did a great job just on like the shielding system, how they made it. But you know,
I think Apex probably has a bit long of a kill time if it was to be turned into a BR.
Oh,
I think that like Halo has probably a closer kill time to what I'm expecting.
Yeah, no,
maybe even that's a bit long. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can move on to utilities if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on that in a way too, but I mean, again, this kind of ties into progression as well, because maybe progression, we're thinking about it all wrong. Maybe your health stays the same, but you just get better implants, and we don't know what the hell implants are. Like, we don't know. So there's just so many things they can do.
Utilities is definitely hard to talk about because we don't know
what's
in the game,
much.
Right? So it's like we're kind of just like talking about things that might not exist. But obviously we know implants will exist, and I'm assuming implants will alter your stats somehow. I think implants are a good item to add to your game. I mean, if they're random rolls on the implants too, I think that's cool. Like
that'd be cool to grind.
You get like a god roll implant that you don't want to die with. But yeah, I mean, I guess the only other real topic I can think of with utilities that like is kind of like universally done is like healing. Healing is done in a lot of games where it's like some games you can't move at all, some games let you move to like outskill your opponent while you're healing. In my opinion, I think you should always be able to move while you're healing. I think it creates more skill to the game, and like I think it's really important to be able to move.
You think you should keep the same speed like an Apex they slow you down?
Definitely not.
Like I think Apex does a pretty good job on that too.
You should definitely be slowed down, but like the amount of times where I've like outplayed somebody with healing, like while LOSing them, like using the cover to like go around the cover while they're coming around the other side and just keep moving around it, or like there's just so many ways to outplay somebody while healing, and I feel like obviously it should slow you down, but I feel like also being stationary kind of just like it kind of just removes any skill gap to the fight, to where like, okay, I got shot in the back and now they know I have to be stationary to heal. It's like so that guy really outplay me, but like if that guy who shot me in the back is worse than me, then I can still kind of use my movement to like finesse him and like get enough time to get the heal off. I don't know. I don't have to make more complicated than it is. I just think it adds like another layer of skill to the game that is important. But like realistically, if somebody shoots me in the back and they're actually good, they should always get that kill. You know what I mean? It's more about like letting you fight back against people you deserve to be able to fight back against.
Yep, it'll definitely help in just the longevity of fights too. I don't want to lose a fight, like, because like in Tarkov when you heal, you really can't move. I mean, most of the heals you can't move for, and it just makes for like, okay, if I get hit, I have to run to the left side of the map and run 7 miles this way, then I have to completely disengage from the fight, and then I have to heal, then I have to go back in the fight, then you might have rotated. Like, it's just, I just don't like that type of PvP. I like in Cycle, Apex, when you get hit, you can heal, peek, see if they're coming, move around. It's just, like you said, it's great.
It's more fun, honestly. It's just more fun.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I mean, but utilities, you can't really talk about it much because we don't know much. So
I mean, there could be flashbangs, stuns. We don't know. Like,
there could be a
theorize, unfortunately. But
who knows? Who knows? But one thing I do want to talk about a lot, because it's literally I literally begged developers of the Cycle to add this to the game, and it was just player levels. I want to talk about all types of levels, but I begged for player levels. I begged for prestiges to player levels. I begged for faction levels. Like, there's so many different ways they can add even more longevity to the game, just in the factor of levels. If people want to see a number go up, if devs are listening, make numbers go up. I'm happy. You know what I mean?
When you say player level, are you talking about that like level that's attached to your like character? Like, for example, in Valorant, like Valorant levels. Like that.
Yeah, I mean, not like
Valorant are you saying you want that to be shown in game? So like if I'm level 5,000, like that should be like next to my name.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like in COD. I don't think Valorant's a good example, because I mean in Valorant, I don't think it really matters what level you are. I mean, sure, it shows you play the game a lot, but Valorant's main thing is ranked. So
you're more saying like prestige levels, basically.
Okay. Like, if you're in a lobby, if you're in game and you see like, holy, this guy's level 777, get a life, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Then when you get to certain levels, you can unlock certain stuff, but again, levels can mean so many more things,
It's kind of interesting you bring that up because Destiny actually just added like something called Guardian ranks, and albeit like I don't think they really say much because again it's Destiny, and I think it's kind of hard to like really show skill in that game besides just saying like some ridiculously hard thing, which like 0.01% of people do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of not worth adding. Um, but the point is they added Guardian ranks so they kind of understand like letting people show off if they're like really a grinder. So if you're hoping for prestiges and or like some way to show your like level, I actually think there's a good chance that Marathon might have that because they just added like that kind of thing to Destiny.
That's good though. They're thinking about it. It's in the back of their mind.
They are thinking about it, so that's good, and I think they understand that. And like, yeah, I mean, I think that's good for Marathon. But yeah, I agree. I think letting people show what level they are or like how much they've grinded is a good thing and doesn't really take away from the game.
Yep.
I don't think we'll see prestigious probably, but we might see just like something that indicates like playtime.
It doesn't have to be prestigious. I just say prestigious because I love seeing like I get to level 100, then I prestige, then I get like a super sick icon next to my name. You know, like even if like the levels just get different icons, like certain art teams just do so well in these types of things. Like people, like art teams are so crucial to games because they just make it so I want to improve. I want to get my rank up. I want to level up because I want this symbol, or it just makes me want to play the game more because I'm the type of player where like, sure, I might not be the greatest PvPer of all time. I'm all right, but I'm not the greatest in any means. I just want to grind, get the highest level possible, do the stupidest quests possible, do the hardest quests possible, and I want to get just the highest level in everything because that's just the way I play, you know? Everyone has their different ways of playing. I know you love PvP, right? You're a sweat lord, complete sweat lord. You have buckets in your room drenched with your towels of sweat. You know, but it's different play styles. But
yeah, I mean, I think levels is a fairly simple topic. Yeah, I just think they need to add something that players like show off their, you know, that level. Like just let people.
How would you feel like I hope they're obviously going to have some type of merchants or vendors or factions, right? They're going to have something. I'm wondering what if they tie in, if they do merchant levels, right? Kind of like in Tarkov. If you get to certain levels, if you play enough, if you get a certain amount of stuff, will it unlock new quest lines? Will it unlock new opportunities to unlock new cosmetics? Like in the very beginning, we were talking about the achievement book. What if to unlock certain achievements, you have to obtain a certain amount of faction levels in a certain faction? Like, I think levels can be just, they can add so much more to a game just by grindability, you know?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Marathon devs should definitely have taken a look at Tarkov and any other extraction shooter, and if they have, then they would know that like merchant levels or like trader levels are pretty consistent.
Yeah.
And they should definitely look into adding them again. Like I don't know if we'll see that on release, but I would be surprised if we don't get
for the first 6 months. Yeah. So if they want to hone in their craft, you know, go for it.
I agree.
But
I would expect to see something like that. But like again, I think it's really important to also realize that like it's Bungie, they might do something in the realm of that like the similarities, but they might do it in a different capacity, right? Like
yeah, that's fair.
It's hard. I hope that makes sense. But like they might do trader levels, but reimagines in like a different way, right? Like they could have that like that type of idea where it's like you've got to play the game to like get better gear from your traders, but they might not do it in the traditional way where it's like, oh, you just level up the trader.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but I think we could see something different. But yeah, I think levels are just a great way to like, again, add playtime to your game.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. I know this one of the last topics before we get to the questions, is one you're really passionate about. Cause I mean, it's all about the end game, right? What is the end game? How is the end game going to work? What is it going to contain? I know you're an end game grinder. So, you know, what would you want to see?
I think, so we've brought up endgame in the past podcasts.
Yeah,
I think
we have, yeah.
We don't want to sound like a broken record, but this time we're going to probably focus a little bit more on like actual endgame. Because I think in the past we kind of just like touch on like, oh yeah, endgame's important for these reasons. But
yeah,
I think specifically, in my opinion, I think endgame is carried by PvP in extraction games. Because And the main reason, in my opinion, that happens is because PvP is a dynamic thing, right? So, by the time you get to the end game, you've probably completed most of the PvE quests or like static PvP things that are just offered in the game as content.
Yeah.
But PvP never, there's no end to PvP, right? Like every time you get in a fight, it is slightly different somehow, right? So it is an ever changing thing. And that's what adds playtime to your game, and that replayability factor is just like the player versus player interactions that just like they create content in itself, right? It's a catalyst that just never stops, working. I think the important thing for endgame is how you build around that PvP factor, right? And of course, like I really do hope that there's PvE that like is completed over and over again, but I think that I'd say PvP makes up at least 50% or more of those like of the reason to keep playing past like that like end game. I mean, you look at Tarkov, and I'm pretty sure the end game in that game is literally just running around and killing each other.
And
it's fun, right? Because you're all running max gear and you're looting other max gear players. But what I was gonna say is I think that it's really important to have catalysts for that PvP that kind of create that like dynamic end game feel. And this kind of loops back into like the events. I think events are nice like throughout the entire game, but I think they really shine when it's end game time, right? Like I think those events that I was talking about earlier with like loot drops and world bosses, I think those really should be tuned for that end game experience. And I think that's what's really important, because you want to be creating like unique experiences for the end game PvP. And I think the only way to really do that is to have those like random events that spawn over the world and like create the different dynamic PvP spots.
Yep. I agree 100%. I mean, PvP literally carried every game with a wipe is PvP at the end. It just is. Cycle was complete PvP at the end. Tarkov was complete PvP. What other games are wipe based? Rust basically completely PvP.
Basically PvP at the end.
Because again, you're just fighting each other for your bases.
All of these games where it's like progression until you get the best gear, they always result in that PvP. And it's the entire point, or my entire point is just like, how do you make that PvP more than just PvP, right? Like, how do you make it more interesting than just like another PvP fight at the same spot? And like, I talk a lot about these events, but I think there's a lot of ways to do it. And I think it's more about the concept rather than like world bosses or events. It's like, how do you make these end game PvP fights more than just running to one spot over and over again with your best kit? Like, that's my main point. But I really do hope that there's like bosses that maybe scale off your like progression, or like a really hard boss that spawns randomly that's PvE, because I think it's also important to like add that PvP end game in for the players that aren't like so big about like PvP. I know Tarkov, you could technically say like farming the bosses is kind of like an end game thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that just go for the highest player levels and they just farm bosses all day.
Yeah, I would definitely say that PvP is the most important thing to like really focus on for end game though. In extraction game at least.
No, I agree. That if I think of like, in my opinion, if I want like what do I want to see in an end game, I basically just want a PvP too, because at the end of the day, I love PvE, right? Like I would love if there was like a dungeon with like a ton of different quests, right? And then the only real way you can complete those quests, or those not even quests, like the achievements, right? Like we said, the achievements is by using your really good gear that you only get in end game, and by using that at the end of the wipe when you have all that good gear, and you can use that to complete like solo dungeons or really hard mode dungeons, like. But
exactly.
Yeah, but end game is. I think they'll do a good job. I think they've got enough. If they've looked at other extraction shooters, which they 100% have, right? If they look at all the highs and lows from Tarkov and Cycle, I think they'll do a great job. I think they will.
We also know that we're getting like big PvE content because of like the world's first stuff they talked about. I'm sure that'll tie into end game. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of stuff. And also, again, achievements gonna go into end game, because that's when you start grinding for your achievements mostly. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, it could be fun. It could be a lot of fun if they just put the time in, just make sure this game is an absolute gem. They have the chance to make a game that pops off. Like, I'm thinking like Fortnite levels of popping off, and I'm not even kidding.
It could.
Like, this literally could blow up, just because there's nothing on the market in the console area, at least, that is anything like this. And we all know when you add console to the mix, the player base gets a pretty good bump. So but yeah, I think if you want to do some questions, get some questions going, maybe
get some questions
one or two questions, and I know it's a little bit of a shorter pod today, a little bit of a shorter one, but we're getting a lot of good information. And don't forget, if you want your questions in the podcast, join the Discord. First link in the description. Drop your questions in the podcast question section, and we'll read them out in the pod. So feel free to drop them down below. You know what I mean? Drop them in the Discord.
I don't think we've done this one in the past.
Okay.
Will it be a horizontal based or an elevation based map? Obviously we haven't played the game, but if we take a look at like Bungie's, Destiny 2, they do a lot of both. And I think it's also fundamental to like have elevation and like just like verticality in your maps. I think we'll see a lot of both, to be honest. I think Bungie does well with designing areas. Like Destiny 2 has a lot of verticality in their map design, and so does pretty much any other PvP game. Like no real company that understands map design is going to be releasing maps that are just strictly horizontal. Everybody's on the same like y-axis the entire time, right? Like we will almost definitely like 99.9% see like areas that are vertical, like or have a lot of verticality, where it's like you're gonna have people shooting down on you. You might be shooting down on players. There might be an underground portion. Like we'll see verticality for sure. I think we'll see a lot of it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good mix. It's not gonna be like Doctor Disrespect's Extraction, where it's literally a completely vertical scale, basically. So I think we'll get a really good mix. I mean, they have great map designers. They're gonna do a great job on that. You know what I mean? One question here that I think we've read like a portion of it, but I don't think we've read most of it. It's from Wild Turkey. I'm only going to read a part of it, but it says, I would like to see a map be gear locked for endgame style gameplay. Now, this question I think is pretty solid because, again, that ties into the fact of how we said, like, someone that just started the game, how are they going to go against someone that is grinding the crap out of the game, right? How is that fair to the Timmy? Some people's solutions, I'm not saying it's my solution, I'm just saying some people's ideas of a solution for this is to have the maps be gear locked. So say there's 3 maps, right? Say there's 3 maps total. First map is the white base gear to blue. Second map is the purple base to gear to red. Then the third map is like gold and up or something, right? Like for Marathon's sake, I do not want to see this. I'd be fine with maps being scaled by like loot. So like one map has like all right loot, second map is pretty good loot, third map is really good loot. Like I'm fine with that if there's like really good loot sprinkled into the lower tier maps, but I don't want to see like heavily gear locked maps, because then I don't find excitement in that. Because if I go to the best map in the game, I'm only going to run into the best gear in the game, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what I'm expecting, so why would I care?
I think the reason that people think that this is a good idea, and it's not a bad idea, it's just like it's not necessary for a game that does their progression correctly, right? So like you think it's a good idea because like, oh well, I wouldn't have to deal with all these people that have nothing to risk if it was gear locked. It's like you also would have, you wouldn't really have to deal with this as much if gear was just actually better than other gear, right? Like there would be less people trying to steal your kit with grays if the grays were just shit. Like
they wouldn't even try because they're just wasting their time.
They wouldn't try. So there's no reason to add a gear lock. I would say instead of trying to lock a map out of gear, let's focus on the main issue, which is let's make progression actually worthwhile, and let's make gray gear not really have a great chance at killing legendary gear, right? Yeah. So I also just think that we'll never see a gear lock, mostly because I think devs kind of know that. I don't remember the last time I played a game that has like locked people out of gear. I think like World of Warcraft doesn't let you do certain dungeons if you're not in gear level, but that isn't really the same thing, right? Like I've not played a PvP game where there's like gear lock. And again, I think it's because it's unnecessary. I think that solves a problem that can be solved in a much more efficient way, which is just like, let's create gear that actually scales.
Yeah, it's not even a solution. It's just every single like
it's like a band-aid fix. Yeah, right?
It's like a band-aid fix. It's not even a fix. You're just making people not be mad that they're dying to the ultra sweaties. It just doesn't even make sense, because then you just take away any aspect of fear, any aspect of like getting anxious in the game, because that's the best part. It's these high risk extraction looter shooters, they fill me with anxiety. I am scared shitless because half the time I'm running my best gear and I don't want to be embarrassed by dying to someone with absolutely nothing good on. I don't know, but that's my opinion. you have any other questions that you see?
No, I think that was a good place to end it.
Yeah.
But yeah, one last thing regarding that last thing is like another reason to not do gear lock is because let's be honest, like a lot of the coolest content we've seen from these extraction games is when somebody makes a crazy play, crazy come up play. And if you add gear lock to your game, like you kind of remove that.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of content in my opinion. And like it just, I think gear locking just, it helps in a lot of ways kind of, but it hurts in a lot of ways. Whereas just fixing your progression is only beneficial for the game. So
yep. I agree.
We can end it there. I think that was a great podcast.
Yeah, that was a good solid for a dual pod. That was really solid.
Please, guys, please give us more questions because I don't want to start reading the same questions.
Yes, please.
If you're watching this podcast, please type in the questions channel #podcast questions in our Discord link in the whatever
description.
It's called.
Yeah, it's in the description. And yeah, make sure to join it.
Give us some questions, please. I'm begging.
First link in the description. And also make sure to comment down below in this video who you guys want to see on the pod. We want to start having more guests on. So if you guys see a creator from Destiny you love, from literally any extraction looter shooter, any guest that you'd want to see on, just comment it down below. Join the Discord. First link in the description. Give us some podcast questions. And yeah, that'll be it for today. And we'll see you in the next one. See ya.